Hey guys, what is going on? So I wanted to talk about probably the most overlooked macronutrient when it comes to putting on size, more specifically contractile tissue, and that is carbohydrates. And I think it is a vector that people don't really maximize when it comes to really getting the most out of their performance, the most out of, improving muscle mass and everything like that. And I think it's very overlooked. So this is why I wanted to stress some of the uses of carbohydrates in the body and why I think it's better to kind of increase carbohydrate intake relative to other macronutrients when you are raising your calories. Okay, so first, before I get into anything else, I believe in eating a balanced diet, meaning, not necessarily that all your macronutrients should be in a perfect balance, but more so that you should be getting sufficient amounts of all the macronutrients, regardless of if you're cutting or bulking or whatever. I think you shouldn't be cutting out any group. You shouldn't be limiting your protein intake. You shouldn't be limiting your carbs. You shouldn't be limiting your fats. You should be getting adequate amounts of all of them. But when the question of where do you allocate your additional calories comes into play, I think the very obvious choice in terms of, really pushing it is carbohydrates when it comes to bulking. Okay, so carbs get a bad rap, sugar gets an even worse rap, and I think a lot of this has been due to the recent surge of ketogenic diets. And while that can be beneficial from, maybe a mental clarity perspective, it can kind of trick people into thinking that they're losing more fat mass than they are because of the drop in, water weight and stuff like that. And that can be great for different groups of people. When it comes to those who are actually trying to put on muscle mass, trying to put on size, a lot of those things are not really the main driver of what we're trying to achieve with our calorie surplus, right? So again, I really think that we should be having, a balance of our macronutrients. You should not be avoiding getting adequate protein, getting adequate fat intake. But when you have that additional calorie room to kind of work with, I think carbs make a lot of sense in terms of being able to improve your workout capacity. This is going to, if you have carbs before your workout versus not having carbs at all, you're going to notice a huge difference in terms of your performance in the gym, or you're probably going to be able to do more volume. You're probably going to be able to get closer to true failure when you actually are doing your sets, which is obviously very good for muscle growth, whether you're trying to get within 2 reps of failure, whether you're trying to get to failure or past it. Your ability to really push yourself in the gym is often dictated by your carb intake. And a lot of people, if they go on a ketogenic diet, sure, it can be great for weight loss, it can be great for, mental clarity and stuff like that. And I'm not saying you can't do that from a lifestyle perspective. When it comes to just pure gym performance, carbohydrates are really going to let you go and push a little bit more and have, especially when you're pairing it with proper hydration, when it comes to water intake, when it comes to electrolytes, you're really going to notice your ability to push yourself in the gym. And the harder you go in the gym, taking things to failure and doing things in a smart way with progressive overload, assuming your programming is on point to a certain degree. If you're pushing yourself in the gym, that's going to be the main stimulus that your body's going to need to be able to grow. Okay, so there's that aspect of it. There is the anticatabolic effect of carbohydrates, which is, people kind of misinterpret the general process of building muscle, but ultimately we want to increase muscle protein synthesis and we want to minimize protein breakdown. Now, this is not this idea of we want to break down the muscle and really destroy it and then build it back up. It's not really like that. You're trying to stimulate the protein synthesis, and you get that response from training. You get that from, the protein that you intake, the insulin spike that you're getting, which you're obviously getting from protein by itself, but you're getting an insulin spike when you use carbohydrates as well. You're getting the myostatin inhibition, both from training. You're also getting that from protein intake, right? So there are a lot of vectors that you can actually use to build muscle. And so it's not about breaking down the muscle as much as possible. You're trying to stimulate that muscle growth and then maximize protein synthesis. That's how we're able to grow. And if you can account for factors such as, myostatin inhibition, which again is going to be, a way that we can do that is by actually having, a workout that is going to be stimulating the muscles that we're trying to grow. Obviously having that muscle protein synthesis on top of that, right? These are the vectors that we're actually going to use to build muscle. So if you can maximize those pathways, and if you can actually get the best workout possible, by having that carbohydrate intake, and you are limiting the catabolic effect, that's what carbohydrates are really good at doing. And, one of the factors of, having a high protein diet is that it's going to limit the amount of breakdown of your muscle tissue, because your muscle tissue is made up of amino acids, which is what protein is. But carbohydrates have a similar role in being protein sparing, and protein again is made up of amino acids. That's what the muscle breakdown is doing. And so if you can limit that catabolic effect, which is just the breakdown of your tissue, if you can limit that with carbohydrates and you're able to increase that muscle protein synthesis, via your workout, having your protein after or just throughout the day and stimulating that response, you're going to get the best of all worlds, right? So you really want that anti-catabolic effect of the carbohydrate. You want that energy source, and carbohydrates are your body's main energy source that they prefer, right? So if you're actually able, and again, you don't need carbohydrates. This is not to say that keto, you can't build muscle on keto, but it's going to make it very difficult to have the quality workouts, to have the anti-catabolic effect. And anecdotally, a lot of people will tell you the importance of carbs and their ability to actually put on size at a more effective rate. And sure, I've heard lots of positive things about ketogenic diets for mental clarity, and if that's your main goal and you're not trying to put on the maximum amount of muscle tissue, that's another conversation. This is just simply how can we actually put our calories to good use when we are bulking, okay? Another aspect of carbohydrates that this particularly is helpful for people who don't have the best appetite, people who are skinny, who are trying to, bulk up. Both protein and fat are much more satiating than carbohydrates. And in fact, carbohydrates can often stimulate your appetite. So a strategy that a lot of people use when they are cutting is they limit their carb intake in the first part of the day and they save their carbs for later on, potentially after their workout to recover. But if you're eating carbs earlier in the morning, that can actually stimulate your appetite to want more food throughout the day. So if you're getting the carbohydrates steadily throughout the day and you're consistently eating them, that can actually stimulate your appetite to a significant degree. Also, if you're able to go really hard in the gym, that can have a very appetite stimulating effect as well. And even if you don't want that appetite to be stimulated, you do want to have carbs before the gym to have the maximum workout, and you do really want to be able to go hard during your workout, which carbs is going to help you achieve. So if you're a hard gainer, both in terms of actually putting on size, whether it's fat or not, or you're a hard gainer in terms of putting on muscle, I think adding your calories via carbohydrates is a great way to do it. So one of the diets that I used to follow, I don't do it anymore, but I take a lot of the philosophies from this diet, is the vertical diet. And basically what you're looking at is you're getting your micronutrient intake via, all these different sources. That's kind of the main base of the diet. And then you're building up with your protein sources and with your carbohydrates. So if you have a certain amount of lean body mass, there's a certain amount of protein that you should probably be hitting. Now, a lot of the research suggests that, you can go off of a lean body mass number, you can go off of a total, pound amount. But a lot of the research suggests you want to get 0.6 to 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. So assuming you're hitting that number, especially when you're bulking and you have all this excess, calorie intake, you have the anti-catabolic effect of the carbohydrates. Once you hit that number, once you hit your fats to keep your hormones in check, and carbohydrates contribute to this as well, once you're getting your micronutrient intake, there's not a ton of benefit to adding a whole bunch more fat, a whole bunch more protein, but the carbohydrate increase that you're able to, get both in terms of the appetite stimulating effect of it, being able to consistently kind of progressively overload your carbohydrate intake, the extra energy that you're going to get in terms of being able to put more output in the gym, get more volume, hopefully, so that you can continuously add more volume, burn more calories, eat more food, have more resources. And it's just kind of this infinite loop that you're able to continuously add calories over time on your bulk. And hopefully, considering it is a appetite stimulating macronutrient, that is not going to be an issue, hopefully. And that's why I think that carbohydrates are a very good vector to actually use to gain weight, and specifically muscle tissue. That's what we're going for. And that's why I really think that's kind of the best option in terms of, obviously, again, have a balanced diet, get your other macronutrients, but I think carbohydrates are a great option. So that's what I'm doing in my bulk. It's working very well. When you pair that with the 10-minute walks, potentially a glucose disposal agent, certain carbohydrate sources, you're not just having sugar all day, can be absolutely fantastic. So definitely recommend giving that a try. Do not demonize carbs. Don't demonize sugar at the right times. And I think it's going to take your training and your muscle growth to the next level. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'll keep you updated, and I'll talk to you soon.